Now, before we start, for this lesson, I'm going to be including a bit of documentation and also this small file. I'm going to include this documentation, room dimensions and room distribution if you want to model everything from scratch. In one PDF file you can notice all the measurements expressed in meters right over here. This is a basic distribution, and for the other file you can notice the different layouts that the room is going to have. Okay, I'm also including in this present lesson one of the PLA models. If you want to skip the modeling part, it's going to be this file over here, room number 1, king size. If you open this in ArchiCAD international version, in my case it's going to be ArchiCAD 28, I simply open this, read all the files directly. You can notice that there's not going to be any issue in terms of libraries. All the objects are going to be present. So having mentioned this, let's proceed with the first thing. We already commented that the hotlink modules will allow you to, for example, create a link of this file. So you can, for example, copy everything a bunch of times. And if you change the original file, if you, let's say, we move this wall a little bit over here, we change the distribution or something else, well, all the different copies are going to be automatically updated in this external file. Okay, it also gives you the ability of working on a file individually and creating a more structured file containing other files that will allow for some degree of collaborative work. But in first place, how can we link, for example, this ArchiCAD file into another existing file? In first place, we need to save this accordingly. When you're working with a hotlink module from the very beginning, let's go over here to File, External Content, and right over here you will notice that we can find the place hotlink function. Let's activate this. Right over here, select module. Okay, it's going to open up this window, select hotlink module, where we actually select whether this is going to be from a file or from Beam Cloud. Let's do this from a file. And when you want to place a hotlink module, you will notice that ArchiCAD will accept multiple types of files. One of which is going to be the base type of file extension that ArchiCAD manages or uses, which is just an ArchiCAD solo project, PLN. But also you will notice that we can use the point mod type of extension. We can go ahead, link 2D lines, IFC files. You can link Rhino models, and you can link Revit project files. Okay. But the two that we're going to use for this section are going to be PLN and point mod. So this means when creating a linked type of file, what you want to do is save this file, save as right over here, and simply save this in these two different extensions. You got the basic extension and you got the point mod extension. Now keep in mind that there are advantages, pros and cons for each type of file. If you want to, for example, manage everything, let's say if you want to include view sets, sections, elevations, you want to include the 2D information in your project, go ahead and save this as a PLN file. This is going to give you even more advantages when working your project in a structured manner. But let's say you only want to reference the geometric information from an ArchiCAD file. You only want to include the walls, the objects, the windows, the door, and all the beam information, which is merely geometric information or 3D information. For this case, you also have the point mod type of extension, which is going to be a little bit more lightweight than the PLN type of file, and also is going to work a little bit faster. So in long story short, point mod will only contain geometric information, but it's going to be faster, easier to manage, and it's going to be a little bit lightweight. Okay. And also, if you want to include all types of information and more type of information, you want to use the PLN type of file extension, which is going to be slower than the mod, but it's going to give you the possibility of managing even more information. So feel free to use whichever file extension you want. We can test this both out. I'm going to create a new folder in the desktop for this practice, which is going to be the Kotlin modules folder right over here. Let's proceed to save a quick test in PLN file extension, and let's save the same file in point mod type of extension. Now, I want to point out something important when saving point mod type of files. In first place, you need to be on the ground floor. If you're not in the ground floor when you try to save this, in this case we have the module file from clipboard or the module file right over here. We got two different modes, okay, in the ground floor. But if we switch this to the 3D view file save as, you will notice that we don't get the point mod type of extension. So just be really careful, because if you're in 3D view, it's going to be deactivated. So let's proceed to the ground floor. Select everything that is important when saving your mod file. Control C, okay? And now you can proceed to save this however you want. You can save this as a module file. It's going to save all the geometry present in the project, or module file from clipboard. Only the selected elements you have copied with Ctrl C and have previously selected. Okay, let's proceed with the mod file. I'm going to override the previous save I had from earlier. Let's save this, and pretty much that's it. Now you can clearly notice how the files are going to behave. We got the PLN type of file extension, which you can clearly notice that is going to measure 8 megabytes for this room, okay? But if you save this as a point mod type of extension, you can clearly see it's only going to measure 2 megabytes. It's going to be 4 times lower than the PLN file extension. And it's also going to be faster to use and faster to update. But if you're planning to use more information, go ahead and use the PLN type of file extension. So hopefully with this I can make it clear which are the main differences between these two extensions when using Kotlin module. So for the next lesson, make sure that you first off save your project. And in the next lesson, now I'm going to explain in full detail how we are going to use the place hot link function.